All right, well, it's raining outside, and the truck's been outside for a few days too. I know the last update I showed you, I had just put the surfacer on it, primer surfacer, and I was all set to, let the dog in, all set to paint it the next day, was the goal at that point. So the next day was Sunday. It was late Saturday night that I was working on it, and Sunday I ended up getting the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine, which I know that's controversial. I'm not telling you to get it. It was my own thought process is that I don't want either the vaccine or the virus, but if I had to pick one or the other, I'd rather have the experimental vaccine than the experimental virus, but you make up your own mind on that. But anyways, Sunday night, it completely wiped me out. High fever and everything. Whatever. All kinds of excuses. Now it's Wednesday night. I got home from work and we had thunderstorms and I pulled the truck inside and I'm ready to start blocking it out. So let's see how that goes. The body work that I've done so far, it's not perfect by any means. It's not terrible, but it's not good. And I knew that when I put the surfacer on it. I wasn't too worried about being perfect. I knew I was going to find more stuff. And so let's see how that goes right now. So like I said, the truck's been sitting outside for a few days now. It's covered in dust, pollen, crap falling from the trees. I'm going to do something that I've been doing since long before Bad Chad made it cool, and that's use Windex to clean it. Bad Chad is a guy that my father actually found on YouTube before I did. And he's been watching his videos and he's always telling me tips that he's getting from him. And the guy does really nice work. I mean, a lot of the stuff he does is a little bit unconventional, but I kind of like that because a lot of stuff I do is unconventional too. So check out his channel. Does really nice stuff. Does things that you probably wouldn't necessarily agree with if you're a professional painter or whatever, but results speak for themselves. So I'm just going to wipe this down with some Windex. And at this stage, I'm sanding most of this off. I just don't want to sand in a bunch of pollen and dirt and stuff. I want it to be kind of clean. And this surfacer, even though it's pretty smooth, there are areas where it's really grabbing the microfiber on me. It probably goes without saying that I also am not a professional paint or body man by any means. Kind of mostly self-taught. I pick up on things as I go along, learning what other people are doing, and I go with that. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, stop doing it. If there's an easier way, do the easier way. You know, as long as it's going to be a good job. I approach most stuff like I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't really worry about it because I know that when I'm done, it's going to be pretty good. It's going to come out, you know, not bad. I paint on average maybe one vehicle a year. If like, not even that, less than that. But, they always come out pretty nice. On my other channel, which has become almost all a gardening channel these days because people got tired of me putting automotive stuff on a channel that they subscribe to because I was doing gardening stuff. Created this channel, and the other one's called Corey's Cave. This one's Corey's Garage. It's all about the garage. So let's get blocking. What I have here is a really nice blocking set that my father's letting me use. It's Durablock, six-piece set. If I can find where to buy it, I'll put a link in the description for you. Ideally, you'd want to use like this block. It's such a big panel, so you want to cover as much surface area as you can. I don't have any sandpaper at the moment without going and looking for some that's going to work for that block. And so I'm just going to go with this block, a much shorter block. It'll be just fine for what I'm trying to do. And I'm going to use 220, which is a much coarser grit than you might expect to want to use. But that's because I know the state that I'm at. This bodywork is not perfect by any means. I'm going to sand it really quickly. I'll find all the high spots. Normally you would use a guide coat, so I would put like a black primer on top of this, and you'd sand it until all the black is gone, and anywhere where there's still black left, you would know you have work to do there. I'm going to skip that step, at least for now. And we're just going to see how hard this is to block off. I put this on really smooth. It's not bad at all. But I can see that there's a lot of work to do here, so I'm not that worried about using something really fine at this stage. Before I put the sealer on, I'll be stepping up to a 320 grit, and we'll seal right over that. The sealer should be able to cover that just fine. So let's start. This is my Cubitron 220 grit, which is a great paper. We'll see how it works for block on primer. And I put 2 heavy coats on here, so it should take a bit to actually sand through this. Just going to wipe this section off. While I was sanding, you could easily see where any little low spots were, but as soon as I wiped it off, it became really hard to see. That's why you use the guide coat. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to put something on it, just as a guide, and we'll go from there. It's going to make it easier for you guys to see on the camera as well, but it's going to help me a lot too. Like I said, not trying to do perfection, but I don't really know how to do it any other way. I can't just leave stuff that I see. So I'm going to get some guide coat on here. We're going to continue blocking, and we'll see how that goes. Got some cheap flat black primer. Just went and stole it from my father. I'm going to throw that on there. Really need to put on just like a mist. Just something that leaves something behind you can still really see really clear after you've sanded it. So just something like that's just fine. It's all you really need. This back corner, I know I have a lot of work right there to do, so I'm not even going to worry about putting too much right there. That should do it. Just give that a couple minutes to dry. And then when I'm sanding, we should be sanding almost all that black right off. If there's any black left behind, that means it's a low spot. Or if I hit metal right away somewhere, that's a high spot. So let's get going on that. Hopefully that's dry enough. It's only been a few minutes, but it should be all right. Put it on a really light coat. Also, I stole from my father some 320 grit for the block. I really would have preferred 220, but we didn't seem to have any. I really need to get my stock up on what I have for paint supplies and papers. So we're going to go along, and we're going to see how this does. Hopefully it doesn't load up too much or anything. This is an old Norton sandpaper, so we'll see how it does. Let's just get started. So it doesn't take long to see where all your low spots are, or your high spots, however you want to classify them. And once you find all those low spots and high spots, you've got a bit of a decision to make. Do you want to fix them, or is it good enough? So for this top rail, I'm going to say most of it's good enough. But I'm going to have some filler out anyways because I'm going to be fixing other spots I know for sure. So I may touch up some of them, but I'm not going to try to get every little, black spot out of there. But I may do a little bit better job than we have right here, right now. Let's see if I can do a little area and show you what's going on. Then I can turn off the camera, crank some music, and get going. So let's see. I like to work in cross sections like this, so I'm going in this direction now. When I come back, I'll go in this direction. Being a long block, it makes you want to just go in lines, but I don't feel like that's the best way to really get complete surface coverage to make sure the whole surface is nice and flat. So I'm moving at an angle. You can see that. This nice long block gives you a nice surface area, so you're not going to dig into any one area as long as you try to keep it laying down flat. So I went in that direction. Now let's go back in the other. I'll just wipe that off for you so you can see just what's going on here. So you can see this panel is not perfectly flat by any means. It's a clear high spot right here. It's down to bare metal. There's black on both sides of it. There's another one here, might be off the camera. But it's not terrible. I know you can see a bunch of little blotches, but almost everything is being touched by the paper. It's not that bad. So I'm gonna finish blocking out this whole side, and then I'll get the camera back on and show you what we ended up with, and then show you how we're gonna fix it. All right, that was a bit of work. It's very humid in here. That sandpaper is just, it's not quite good enough. It does the job, but I've become kind of a sandpaper snob. Good sandpaper is worth its money. Like, you're never gonna spend too much and then decide that it wasn't worth it. So you can see what I got. Quite a bit of stuff to do, but it's not really all that bad. You can see like spots that are really obvious that need a little bit of work. There's a high spot right here. You can see followed up by a little bit of a low spot above it. A black spot here, clear ding right here. You can actually feel that one. Right here needs some work. High spot needs to be knocked in. Just filled a little bit, feathered out. Right here, high spot needs to be knocked down. And then fill all this area right here. There's a ding right here. Some dings along the rail that I was aware of. I knew those were going to be there, but having the black right there really shows me exactly where I need to fill things. There's a little bit of funky area right here. Looks like got a little Bondo right here, a little filler that Both sides of it are a little bit low. I think there was a pretty good sized dent right here, and I just didn't get it really that good. It's one of those things where it's tricky. It's like, is that a high spot, a filler with low spots on both sides? Or is it that there's low spots and the filler is at the right height? Try to explain that. Like, you could have a blob of filler, and then on both sides of it, it looks low because you were sanding it and it left, you know, it looks like low spots on both sides of it. But really, it was just the filler was high. In this case, I've determined that I think the filler is at the right height and it's low spots on both sides. I still have to sand along here. I did get back into this groove a little bit more with the this round peg block, whatever you want to call it, and just went in. I did the same thing, went like this and then like this, and just made sure that was a nice smooth groove. Started doing that down here too. I knew there was quite a bit of body work to do back here. Now on these curves, what I like to use is basically like a pool noodle with sandpaper on it, or pipe insulation, which is very similar to a pool noodle. You can get it in a much smaller size though on the pipe insulation, because on something that's concaved and curved around a bend, you can't use something straight and hard. But if you use something rounded and soft, you can just kind of go along and you can find where all the highs or lows are pretty easy that way. So I think that's going to cover the lesson on blocking. That's all you need to do. Next step is to knock down any of the high spots. I'll do that with a little hammer and a little body hammer, and then fill in anywhere that you decide to fix. I won't be fixing every single little thing. An area like this where there's a little bit of that black left behind, that's not low enough to bother with. In fact, there's like minor amount of texture in it that was actually being sanded off. So it's not low enough to worry about, at least for this project. I think if you were doing an absolute masterpiece, you'd want to make sure that this was completely gray and there was nothing showing. That's not what we're doing. I'm already going way too far on this. And if you're thinking I should be wearing a dust mask, you're right, I should be. I was hoping that with just this minimal sanding, I've had a fan going right here and blowing right out this door, that there'd be very minimal dust. It's hot. I've been wearing a dust mask this whole project. I usually do. I strongly believe in, protecting your lungs. Just, you saw me do something that you probably shouldn't do. So hopefully I didn't breathe in too much. I'm sure I'll be fine. Decided I'm at a pretty good stopping point for tonight. It's getting to be kind of late. I think my wife just got home, kids got home. Yeah, so that's gonna do it for tonight. I was gonna, power through and show you how to fix all of those spots, but that's gonna have to wait till next time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. If you enjoy this type of content, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching.